My wife cheated on me with my brother, stole $250, $0 from our joint account to fund her affair, and now she's claiming she owns 60% of our house, which they secretly bought together behind my back. I found out during the lawsuit and I can't believe I trusted her. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy whose life falls apart in one weekend, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling that wouldn't go away. Something was off with Lisa. She'd become distant, secretive even. She'd hide her phone, delete texts, and suddenly our conversations felt forced. I brushed it off at first, telling myself she was stressed, busy with work, or just tired. But then I noticed her getting more defensive when I asked about her whereabouts, and her stories didn't add up anymore. One night, I came home earlier than usual from a business trip. I expected her to be in the living room, maybe watching TV or doing something normal. Instead, I found her in our bedroom just finishing up a call. She quickly slammed her phone down and her face went pale. I saw the smirk on her lips, the way she fumbled to hide her screen. That's when I saw the messages, flirty, suggestive, with a guy I didn't recognize. My heart sank. I felt a cold rush of nausea. The words weren't just innocent banter. They were about meeting up, about hiding it from me. I didn't say a word at first. I just watched her, trying to process what I'd just seen. Her eyes darted around, trying to pretend nothing was wrong, but I knew she had been lying to me for months. She had been sneaking around, hiding her phone, and probably sleeping with someone else. And the worst part, I had no idea how long it had been going on. Was it weeks? Months? I couldn't even breathe right. The next day, I started digging. I had access to our joint bank account, and I pulled the statements. That's when I saw it. $250, zero gone in transfers over the past 6 months. I couldn't believe it. At first, my mind raced. How could she do this? We worked hard to build that money and she just took it like it was nothing. I looked closer and I found out she'd been funneling that money into some account linked to her and a guy named Mark. That's when I put everything together. They weren't just sneaking around, they were planning something big. I confronted her that night. I told her I knew everything. The affair, the money, the secret house she bought with my brother, Jake. She laughed, that bitchy, dismissive laugh that made my blood boil. You don't know what you're talking about, she snapped, rolling her eyes. You're just paranoid, it's just sex, for God's sake. And the money, I was just investing, you're overreacting. But I knew better. I had the evidence and I was done being played for a fool. That night I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, was nothing more than a liar and a thief. And my brother, my own flesh and blood, was complicit in this mess. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and betrayal all at once. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost, the trust, the money, the family I thought I had. I never imagined I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him, stole from him, and then lied to his face. It was like waking up in someone else's nightmare, and I had no idea how I was going to get out of it. The days that followed were a blur of anger, disbelief, and a strange sense of numbness. I kept replaying the moments in my head, her smirk when I first confronted her, the way she lied so effortlessly, the way she dismissed everything as just sex and investment. It was like she thought she could talk her way out of it, that her words could somehow undo what she'd done. But I wasn't buying it anymore. My trust, that fragile thing I'd cherished for years, was shattered beyond repair. I started digging deeper. I needed to know exactly how much she'd taken, where the money went, and what she was planning next. I hired a lawyer, of course, because I knew she was planning to claim some sort of ownership stake in the house, something I never expected, especially not from my own wife. She'd always acted like she was the boss in our relationship, but now I saw it was just her lying, scheming, and trying to control everything behind my back. The lawyer told me she was claiming she owned 60% of our house. That was news to me. We bought the place together, sure, but I always thought it was equally ours. Turns out, she and Jake bought a house behind my back secretly without telling me, using the stolen money. I found out during the lawsuit and I couldn't believe I'd been so blind to her plans. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. And my brother, he was in on it, helping her, hiding things from me, lying through his teeth. I never thought my own family would betray me like this. The betrayal cut so deep I started questioning everything about my life. How did I not see it? Was I just that blind or that trusting? I always thought I was a good judge of character, but Lisa had played me like a fiddle. She was so good at lying, so convincing. She'd call me paranoid or crazy whenever I asked about her whereabouts. But I knew the truth now. Every late night, every secret meeting, every stolen dollar, it all pointed back to her. I started having sleepless nights going over every detail. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I'd always been the guy who believed in honesty, in loyalty. And now I was the guy who got completely blindsided. I felt stupid and angry at the same time. How could she do this? How could my own brother help her? It was like my entire world was crumbling, and I didn't even have the strength to pick up the pieces yet. I decided I had to do something. I couldn't let her steal more money, the house, my dignity. I knew I had to fight back, but I wasn't sure how yet. I just knew I had to get to the truth, to expose her lies, and to make sure she didn't get away with it. I started gathering every piece of evidence I could find: bank statements, emails, texts. I wanted everything documented. I needed to be prepared for whatever legal battle was coming. The most frustrating part was her attitude. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. She told me she loved me, that she'd never cheat, that she only did all this because I was boring and not enough for her anymore. Yeah, right, that's what she said. She played the victim so well it made me sick, but I knew better now. She was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator, and I was done. I couldn't believe I'd let her get away with this for so long, but now I was determined to fight, no matter what it cost me. After I gathered enough evidence, I knew I had to confront her again, this time with everything laid out on the table. I set a meeting at our house, the place that once felt like home but now just reeked of betrayal. Lisa was her usual bitchy self, trying to throw on that fake smile, acting like she hadn't been caught red-handed. She looked me straight in the eye and told me I was overreacting, that all her lies about the affair and the stolen money were just misunderstandings, that I was paranoid and jealous. She even had the nerve to say, "You're just insecure. Maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of spying, none of this would have happened." I couldn't believe she had the audacity to lie straight to my face, like I was some idiot who wouldn't see through her bullshit. I pulled out the evidence, screenshots of the messages, bank statements showing the transfers, the deed of the house she and Jake bought behind my back. Her face went pale, and for a moment she looked genuinely stunned. Like she thought she could keep lying her way out of it, but she knew she'd been caught. She tried to spin it. "It's not what it looks like," she said, voice trembling. "Jake and I were just talking about investments, the money. I was trying to secure our future. You're just jealous because I'm doing better without you." She even had the nerve to cry, acting like she was the victim, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted, even if it meant destroying everything I'd worked for. I told her she had no right claiming any part of the house, that I was going to fight for everything, our marriage, our money, everything she stole from us. She laughed bitterly and said, "You think you can just take everything away from me? This isn't over. I own 60% of that house, and I'll fight you in court if I have to." That's when I realized she was dead serious about fighting me for what she believed was hers. She'd already set her sights on the house, on the money, on whatever else she could grab. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I was losing my mind. My stomach was in knots, and I couldn't stop thinking about how I'd been so blind to her true nature. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her manipulate me for so long. My trust was shattered, and I had this sinking feeling that I was going to lose everything I'd built. I had worked so hard to give her a good life, and now she was trying to take it all away, along with my dignity. Her accusations, her lies, they stung worse than anything I'd ever experienced. I felt betrayed by my brother, by my wife, by my own sense of judgment. The more I tried to hold it together, the more I realized how deep this rabbit hole went. I knew I had to be prepared for the legal battle ahead, but inside, I was just exhausted, drained from the constant fight to keep my head above water. I spent the next few days talking to lawyers, trying to understand my options. I wanted to get an injunction to stop her from selling or transferring the house, and I wanted to recover what she'd taken. But I also knew that, emotionally, I was at a breaking point. How do you rebuild trust after something like this? How do you look at your wife and brother the same way again? The betrayal cut so deep that I wasn't sure I'd ever fully recover, but I was determined to fight for what was right, no matter how ugly it got. The legal process moved faster than I expected, and I quickly realized just how much I was up against. Lisa wasn't backing down either. She hired her own lawyer, an aggressive, sharp-tongued woman who seemed to thrive on stirring the pot. The court hearings were a nightmare. Lisa showed up in her designer clothes, acting like she was the victim, flipping her hair, trying to cry on command. Her lawyer argued that she deserved her fair share of the house, claiming that she'd contributed just as much, if not more, because she'd sacrificed for the marriage and invested in their secret property. Meanwhile, I was sitting there trying to keep my composure, listening to her spin her stories. I had all the evidence, but I knew she'd try to twist things around. She kept insisting she was entitled to her cut, that I was being unreasonable, and that her affair and theft were just mistakes that I shouldn't hold against her. She called me paranoid and jealous, accused me of controlling her, and even claimed that I was the one who'd betrayed her by questioning her loyalty. But I knew better. I knew her lies. I knew she'd been planning this for months. She had bought that house with Jake behind my back, using the stolen money. The deed was in her name and Jake, not mine. I discovered it all during the discovery phase, and it was a punch to the gut. She'd been sneaking around, secretly buying property, and trying to turn the tables on me. That's when it hit me. She didn't just want the house. She wanted to control everything, to rewrite the story in her favor. The emotional toll was overwhelming. I felt like I was losing my mind. Every day in court, I had to relive the betrayal, her lies, her manipulations, her blatant theft. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, and now I was confronted with the stark reality that I'd been played for a fool. I was furious at her, yes, but mostly I was heartbroken. How could someone I loved so much do this to me? How could my own brother help her destroy what we built together? It felt like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet, and I was just trying to hold on. The court hearings dragged on for weeks. I spent sleepless nights, worrying about the outcome. The more I learned, the more I realized she was prepared to fight dirty. She'd already made plans to move the money, to sell the house if she could, and to claim she was entitled to everything. I felt like I was fighting a battle I might not win, and that scared me more than anything. I kept asking myself what I'd done to deserve this, how I'd let my guard down so completely. Still, I refused to give up. I was determined to expose her lies, to prove her greed and deception. I documented everything, every email, every transfer, every shady deal she'd made. I even hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to catch her in the act if she tried to do something sneaky. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me. It wasn't just about the money or the house anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my future. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't just let her walk away with everything she'd stolen. The court date finally arrived, and I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. Every piece of evidence I had gathered was laid out in front of the judge: bank statements, the deed, the text messages between Lisa and Jake, even the recordings I managed to get from my private investigator. Lisa looked smug when she walked in, acting like she had the upper hand, but I knew better. I knew. She was cornered, and her bravado was just that, bravado. The hearing was intense. Her lawyer tried to spin it as a family matter, claiming that Lisa deserved her fair share because she had invested so much in the house and the marriage. She argued that she was entitled to 60%, that she had contributed, even if secretly and behind my back. Lisa chimed in a few times, trying to cry and act like she was the victim of my paranoia, but I cut her off. I presented everything: she and Jake's secret purchase, the the stolen money, her attempts to hide assets, her lies. I could see her falter a little, her confident facade cracking under the weight of the truth. In her desperation, she even tried to claim that I was abusive, that I'd controlled her, and that she was only trying to escape because of that. It was laughable, her doing her best to paint herself as the victim, even after all she'd done. But the judge wasn't buying it. When I finished presenting my case, she looked visibly shaken. The courtroom was silent as the judge took his time, flipping through the evidence and listening to arguments. Finally, he ruled in my favor. The house would remain mine and she wouldn't get her 60%. The judge also ordered her to return the remaining stolen money and barred her from transferring or selling any assets without my approval. I felt a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. I'd fought hard and I'd won, at least on paper. But I knew the emotional scars wouldn't heal overnight. The damage was done and I'd have to live with the fallout. After the hearing, Lisa's true colors came out even more. She stormed out of the courthouse, cursing and crying, calling me heartless and jealous, trying to rally her friends and family to turn against me. She still insisted she owned part of the house, that she was justified in taking the money, that I'd ruined everything. But I was numb to her words now. I'd seen her true face and I knew I'd never trust her again. My brother, Jake, tried to reach out to me afterward, but I cut him off. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, trusting my own flesh and blood while they plotted behind my back. The aftermath was just as brutal. I moved out of the house, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stand to see her or be near her anymore. I started the long process of rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I sold the house, cut all ties with Lisa and Jake, and focused on healing. I realized that the trust I'd once had was gone, maybe forever, and that I had to learn to live with that. What hurt the most was the realization that I had been so naive, so trusting, and that my own family had betrayed me this deeply. I learned a hard lesson about loyalty, about money, and about how people can hide their true selves behind a mask. I still feel anger, heartbreak, and frustration, but I also feel a strange sense of relief. At least now I know the truth, and I know I'll be okay, even if it takes time to fully recover. The only thing I can say for sure is that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. So be careful who you let into your life. Some betrayals come from those you least expect. In the end, I learned that trust can be shattered in a heartbeat. And when it happens, it's not just the betrayal of a partner, but a betrayal of everything you thought was real. Lisa's lies, her manipulations, her outright theft, those things changed me forever. I used to believe in honesty and loyalty as the foundation of a relationship, but now I see how easily those can be torn apart by greed, deception, and selfishness. I've come to accept that some people are just fundamentally broken, and no matter how much you want to fix things, they're beyond repair. The damage Lisa and Jake did to my life was profound, but I also realized I had a choice. I could let it define me, or I could learn from it and move forward. I chose the latter. I've spent months rebuilding my life, rebuilding my sense of self, and learning how to trust again, carefully, cautiously. If I could give anyone advice from all of this, it's this: be vigilant. Watch out for the signs of betrayal, even if they seem small at first. Money is often a red flag: hidden accounts, secret purchases, unexplained transfers. Trust your instincts and don't dismiss that gut feeling. And most importantly, never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself or your interests. People can pretend to be something they're not, but the truth always comes out in the end. I don't regret the lessons I've learned, even if they came at a terrible price. The pain, the heartbreak, those are part of the process, I suppose. But I am stronger now, more cautious, and more aware of what real loyalty looks like. I'll never forget what happened, but I also refuse to let it define me. I hope someday I can look back and see this as the moment I finally took back control of my life, that I stopped being a victim of betrayal and started being the one who learned, survived, and moved on. That's all I can do. That's all anyone can do after a betrayal this deep.